Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 6 of Konosuba. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, that nasty headless horseman guy returned, and he seems rather put out that nobody's tried to storm his castle, which, that's kind of an interesting proposition, but I guess if you're undead, you've got a lot of time to kill. Although, it seems as though that's not the only reason, Maybe Megumin might have still been blowing up his castle in direct contravention to his orders. Yeah, I think Kazuma's got the right idea here, just pinch your cheeks or something, maybe snap that eye patch on her face, just because, come on. Surely there are other things you can blow up. You don't have to antagonize the Headless Horseman. Oh. Kazuma doesn't even have to ask. He knows who that accomplice is, and frankly, shame on Aqua for being fooled into that. I mean, it is rather telling that Kazuma's taking a moment to sort of smack his party members around when there's a much bigger fish to fry here. I feel like if they can survive this guy, then, it would be more appropriate to mete out the appropriate punishments. Well, that's another thing. This guy, he's still under the impression that his curse was successful and that somebody died for basically nothing. Little does he realize. And I'd imagine this is only going to antagonize him further. So naturally, seeing as how he's been thwarted at every turn and how his castle is still being bombed, I'd imagine this guy's not going to be too happy, in no small part because Aqua's just making fun of him to his face. Despite his curse being dispelled, I don't think anybody realizes just how powerful he is. Aqua happens to be a hard counter to him, but, frankly, I think she's too stupid to kill him. I mean, it is interesting that she basically just sort of vaporized his horse and smacked him down for a minute, It's not like she put him down for good, but that's probably a better step than anybody could reasonably expect. I mean, he said it himself, this is a starting town, essentially. So I guess this is an indication that things are really not good if he's able to sort of raise an army out of nothing. I mean, I guess it just so happens that this army is also singularly ineffective against Aqua, but she's not too concerned about blowing them all up. This really does make me wonder about Aqua's mental capacity, if she's under the impression that just because he's not totally vaporized, that her magic isn't being effective. I mean, when you think about it, this guy, he's sort of like the archetype of, the undead paladin, the fallen knight sort of thing. Those guys mean serious business. In Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that, they're normally not something you can just sort of dispel. You really have to go out of your way to put those guys down for good. And speaking of putting things down for good, I feel like Aqua's really missing the point here that, a giant horde of skeletons like that shouldn't be much of a problem for her if she had her wits about her. I mean, that of course implies she has any wits to begin with, which, but, surely her first instinct when confronted with the undead should be to try and turn them. So they're presenting this as though the issue is there's too many of them, but I feel like, to some degree that shouldn't really matter, because they're just, wimpy little skeletons. So I guess to Cosma's credit, this is essentially a solid strategy here. Get the horde of skeletons and the Death Knight in one place and sort of blow them all up in one fell swoop. I mean, ideally this would do it for the Headless Horseman, kill him and everything. But, this guy's strong. There's going to be no such luck, despite how cool it would be. I mean, considering that he survived 2 pretty virulent blasts of holy magic, I feel like an explosion's not going to kill him either. Thinking about it, if anything, this would probably just upset him further. This is the sort of thing that happens to my castle every day. Boy, I'm upset now. And I guess there's the added issue that Megumin, the sort of ace up their collective sleeve, she's out of commission now. So if that didn't finish the job, what are they gonna do? That's rather vindictive of her to be kind of upset about how they're referring to her, even though they're, I guess, congratulating her isn't the term. They're sort of appreciating her skills. Alright, so Aqua's had her time to shine, as has Megumin, so this is where darkness comes in. Naturally, she's just gonna stand there and get hit a lot. I mean, good for her, I guess. She gets what she wants, no doubt. It's kind of interesting that all the townsfolk are getting in on the action, too. I wouldn't expect this to be the case, seeing as how this is a really dangerous monster. I mean, I guess this is, effectively the naivety of inexperience. These guys don't know better. And unfortunately, they're learning. Yeah, it's not an especially gnarly sequence. There's no blood or guts or anything, despite 5 people being effectively bisected in one go. Uh-oh. Oh dear. Everybody expects Mitsurugi to help everyone, but, yeah, what can he do without his sword? Probably a fat lot of nothing. This is one of the things I like about Konosuba. Essentially, the present predicament is the result of all the poor choices that came before. Megumin indulging in exploding things, Aqua teasing the guy when she didn't need to, Cosmo being kind of vindictive in stealing that guy's sword and then pawning it off. All of it sort of mixes together in this conjunction of misfortune, for want of a better term. Now, it is kind of interesting that Darkness, to her credit, is sort of able to hold the guy off. You know, she's not doing a whole lot, but if nothing else, she's sort of matching him. And, you know, I get the feeling that that's rather a remarkable thing, despite all of her other faults. And I guess this is where her big flaw sort of becomes an issue, because sure, she might be strong and tough and all that, but if she can't hit the guy to save her life, then what good is a holy crusader against an evil knight? Yeah, you know, that is kind of disappointing. I feel like if I were an evil knight, I'd be a little bit put out too. I mean, imagine that, you know, you're an undead knight who's lived for who knows how long, you just want to fight and kill stuff. And ideally stuff that can also put up a fight, you know, it's not fun to step on ants all the time. But that said, good on Darkness for just getting back up and continuing to fight. Of course, she does have ulterior motives, which taints everything. Yeah. You know, the worst part is that she likes it so much. You know, like, hey, come on, strip off my armor a little bit more. It's this weird juxtaposition where the Headless Horseman is almost more morally upstanding than everyone else. You know, despite being evil, they're essentially painting him as a pervert, and like, the poor guy doesn't deserve that. I mean, you know, sure, he might be an undead monstrosity and he's trying to, like, kill people and do stuff, but like, you know, he's not a pest in the way the Darkness is trying to portray him. Yeah, you know, that's actually an interesting strategy, sort of trying to freeze the guy in place like that. I guess the idea being that if he's truly a stationary target, then I guess other people would have a chance, surely not Darkness. So unfortunately, it didn't quite work. You know, the principles behind it were good, but it's unfortunate that the Death Knight here said it was a difference in levels, you know. I wish he hadn't quite, you know, called attention to that. Just saying, like, you know, I'm so much stronger than you, your magic doesn't work. Like, that would be enough in my mind. So I guess this is why it's a good thing Kazuma's a gamer, you know. He's sort of thinking rationally about what the deal is. Like, if this were a game that he had played, what's the weakness here? What's the exploit? What can he do to overcome a superior enemy? And I think it's pretty clear he's latched on to what the idea is. You know. Because if nothing else, the Headless Horseman here definitely seems to point his head in the direction of things he's looking at and talking to. And seeing as how it's not actually attached to his body, that's a liability. You know, I'm thinking it was slightly convenient that Aqua wasn't around. You know, seeing as how creating water is essentially the one thing she can do ad infinitum. Now, I think Kazuma might be overstating things a little bit. I don't think the guy's necessarily weak to water, but, you know, water can be blessed and take on holy properties, and that certainly wouldn't be good for him. Alright, so this is good, you know, it seemed like reverse psychology worked for once, by calling Aqua useless a sufficient amount, she'll, try and prove she isn't, and for once she won't be. This is no mere party trick after all. So, despite the spell being called Sacred Create Water, I don't think it's a spell that's holy in nature. I think it's more just Aqua's creating a biblical amount of water. I mean, nevertheless, if a flood won't do it, then frankly I don't know what will. Unfortunately, a flood is also sufficient to level the town. I mean, for a flood to sort of bash down stone walls like that, that's gotta be something. And what's interesting, Aqua doesn't even look remarkably tired from casting something like that. Alright, so that's a little hint right there, No amateur adventurer could steal my weapon. But, that's not what Cosmo's after now, is it? As it turns out, there is something else Cosmo could steal that would render him just as helpless as, losing his weapon. Now, you could just sort of put the guy out of his misery, but you don't have to use his head like a soccer ball. One would have to think that there would be repercussions for a humiliation like this. Just kill the guy. You don't have to do him like this. Well, I guess that's it for him. Like such sacred magic, the third time is enough to just vaporize him entirely. It's almost too bad in a way, because he was a funny guy. I don't mind him as an antagonist. I think he'd even be decent as like a recurring antagonist, but I guess he's also sort of served his purpose too. There are dangerous things here that, not just anyone can fight. It turns out that on occasion you do need a god backing you up. So, I guess things can't be fun all the time. Lest we forget, there were a bunch of people who died, and, Darkness knew them. But, what is death, really, when you have a goddess on your side, It's just kind of unfortunate that she sort of confessed all this embarrassing stuff to them, effectively. So, that's something notable. Aqua is capable of reviving the newly deceased. Which, all things considered, that's not a terribly powerful thing to do in Dungeons & Dragons. Provided they're newly deceased, but, it is interesting that this is a bridge too far for Darkness. Yeah, so Cosmo, he thinks he'll just sort of get off easy. But something tells me that's not going to be the case. I mean, we did see that a big portion of the wall around the city was pulverized, I'd imagine somebody's got to foot the bill for that. Or even if they don't have to foot the bill, I guess best case scenario, they get off lightly for having destroyed it while saving the town. I mean, I guess on the one hand, this whole incident has attracted a lot of positive attention to them. You know, they killed one of the generals of the Demon King's army. That's far from nothing. I guess at least everybody seems to recognize here that Cosmo was pivotal. You know, sure, the others played their role here, but were it not for Cosmo sort of strategizing and organizing things, I feel like no good would have come of it. So I guess they're rich now. You know, 300 million is a fair chunk of change. See, Cosmo's got the right idea here. You know, now that he's rich, just live a good life. But it's unfortunate that he's the only one who seems to see things that way. Poor guy. You know, you just can't win sometimes. And speaking of not being able to win sometimes, it turns out there's also a bill. So, you know, I'd imagine Cosmos sort of probably breaks even, you know. It wouldn't be right to sort of charge them too much. Man, that is rather harsh, being 40 million in the hole like that, just for saving the town. I guess no good deed really does go unpunished. Yeah, well, I guess that's that then. You know, no simple, easy life. Guess you do have to kill the Demon King after all. You hate to see it. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.